Well, I'm John Bachman. Just one day before the government runs out of money, lawmakers are trying to digest a 1,600-page spending bill approved by leaders last night.
When you look at the number of agreements that had to be struck on funding levels, on riders, and other provisions, there's a lot in this bill.
A lot, and about $1.1 trillion all told. But conservatives and other members of the Republican Party, including Senator John McCain, don't like the timing or the size of the bill. He tells Politico it's disgraceful and almost certainly a jam full of stuff. We can tell you that it cuts funding to the IRS by nearly $350 million and adds more than $5 billion to the fight against Ebola. It also only funds the Department of Homeland Security through February. And questions on Capitol Hill today about the security of American facilities around the world after that attack in Benghazi. The House Select Committee on Benghazi has been holding its second hearing today, focusing on keeping diplomats safe.
We are also doing a compliance follow-up review, which means we're actually going and doing another inspection to see whether or not our recommendations actually have been complied with.
And Assistant Secretary of State Gregory Starr says that training for diplomatic security guards has been increased since those 4 Americans, including the U.S. Ambassador to Libya, Chris Stevens, were killed. The intelligence community continues to brace for the full impact of the Senate's intelligence report on the CIA and its interrogation efforts. And now there are calls for prosecution. The UN's top investigator for counterterrorism wants officials who served under former President George W. Bush to face charges. One of them could be former CIA Chief General Michael Hayden, who was asked by our own Steve Malzberg if he ever lied to the committee about these interrogations.
No, would be the straightforward and simple answer.
Did you ever lie? Did you ever lie to the committee?
Of course not. Look, first of all, it's a felony.
Well, that report charges that the CIA misled the American public on the extent of the so-called enhanced interrogation and technique. Security has been stepped up at American installations around the world in case of reprisals. And a former Soviet leader says it's time for a summit between the United States and Russia again. Mikhail Gorbachev today says the two countries need to get together to prevent a deep freeze in relations, especially over the crisis in Ukraine. Writing for a Russian newspaper, he warns that with tensions as high as they are now, we may not live through these days. This week marks the 27th anniversary of Ronald Reagan and Gorbachev's Washington summit. And one of the Senate's top Republicans is getting behind the president's pick to be the next Attorney General. Utah's Orrin Hatch, who has served longer than any Republican in the Senate today, says he supports the nomination of Brooklyn federal prosecutor Loretta Lynch to succeed Eric Holder. And money talk at the Vatican today. The Pope welcoming the managing director of the International Monetary Fund, Christine Lagarde. This comes as the Pope calls for a new global movement to end human trafficking and slavery. One other Newsmax Now update for you in 30 minutes. Now back to Midpoint.